The busy sidewalk was packed with people rushing to their destinations, their eyes glued to their phones, their minds elsewhere. Among them, a teenager strutted forward, hoodie up, wireless earbuds drowning out the world. He moved with the confidence of someone who believed life revolved around him until he was forced to stop. An old man stood at the curb, struggling with a heavy bag of groceries. His frail hands shook as he tried to steady himself. He glanced around, hoping for a kind soul to lend a hand. His eyes landed on the teen, who had stopped just a few feet away. "Hey son, could you help me?" the old man asked, his voice strained but hopeful. The teen barely spared him a glance. With an annoyed sigh, he muttered, "Not my problem," and stepped around him without a second thought. A few bystanders noticed, but no one intervened. Some looked away, pretending not to see. Others whispered to each other, shaking their heads in disapproval. But before the teen could take another step, a firm voice cut through the crowd. "Hey, kid!" The teen turned and his cocky smirk faded. Standing before him was a man in uniform, broad shoulders, sharp gaze, the unmistakable presence of a U.S. Marine. He wasn't asking. He was demanding an explanation. What happened next? Well, let's just say the teen was about to learn a lesson he wouldn't forget. The Marine's stare was unwavering, his posture commanding. The crowd grew silent, the city's usual hum fading into the background. The teenager, who moments ago had walked with such arrogant confidence, suddenly felt very small. "You want to run that by me again?" the Marine asked, his voice calm but firm. The teen swallowed, shifting uncomfortably. I'm busy," he muttered, glancing around, hoping someone would back him up. No one did. The Marine didn't move, didn't even blink. That man just asked for help, and you ignored him. Why? The question hung in the air. The old man still stood there, his groceries slipping slightly in his grip. He didn't say anything, but the disappointment in his eyes was enough to make the teen's stomach twist. "I'm not responsible for other people," the teen finally said, his voice weaker than he intended. "He can ask someone else." The Marine took a slow step forward. "Let me tell you something, kid. Responsibility isn't about convenience. It's about doing what's right, even when no one's watching." The tension was thick. A few people had pulled out their phones, sensing something worth recording. The teen glanced around again, his face flushing with heat. "Look, man, I don't need a lecture." The Marine wasn't interested in excuses. "That man fought in a war before you were even born," he said, nodding toward the old man. "He's sacrificed more than you can imagine, and he's standing here, needing just a little help. And you? You walked right past him like he didn't exist." The teen's mouth opened, but no words came out. The old man finally spoke. "It's all right, son," he said quietly. "I don't want to be a bother." But the Marine shook his head. "No, sir, you're not a bother. You've earned respect. And if this kid doesn't get that, maybe it's time he learns." The teen shifted on his feet. "Learn what?" he muttered. The Marine studied him for a long moment. Then, without another word, he reached for the old man's groceries. "Come on, sir. Let's get you where you need to go." The old man hesitated, then nodded gratefully. The crowd watched as the Marine, strong and steady, walked alongside the old man, carrying the weight the teen had refused to lift. But just when the teen thought he was off the hook, the Marine stopped and turned back. "You coming or what?" The teen blinked. "Me? Yeah. You." The crowd's eyes were on him now. He could feel their judgment, their expectations. His usual confidence had nowhere to hide. For the first time in a long time, he felt something foreign, a small but unmistakable sense of shame. And without fully understanding why, he sighed, pulled out his earbuds, and followed. But what he didn't know was that this was just the beginning. The walk was quiet at first, the Marine carrying the heavy grocery bags with ease, while the old man shuffled beside him. The teenager lagged behind, hands in his pockets, feeling more awkward with every step. He wasn't used to being put on the spot like this, especially in front of a crowd. But now there were no cameras, no staring strangers, just the three of them moving down the street. So the Marine finally said, breaking the silence, "What's your excuse?" The teen frowned. Excuse for what? For acting like you couldn't be bothered. He scoffed. I don't owe anyone anything. I didn't ask to be stopped. The Marine nodded, as if he expected that answer. Fair enough. But let me ask you this, what would it have cost you? A minute? 2? The teen didn't respond. He wasn't sure what to say. The old man spoke up instead. It's not about the time, son. It's about what it means. What do you mean? The old man sighed, shifting his weight slightly. When you're young, you think the world is all about you. Your problems, your wants, your goals. But life doesn't work that way. One day, you'll need someone, and you'll wonder if anyone's willing to stop for you. Something about the way he said it made the teen uncomfortable. He wasn't trying to be cruel earlier, he just didn't think it was his problem. But now, hearing the old man's voice, hearing the exhaustion underneath it, he started to feel something gnaw at him. They reached a small, modest apartment building, its paint peeling in places, the windows slightly dusty. The Marine held the door open as the old man stepped inside. The teen hesitated but followed. The apartment itself was small and simple, a worn couch, an old wooden table, a few faded photographs on the wall. The Marine set the groceries down on the counter and turned back toward the old man. You got anyone who helps you out? The old man gave a small chuckle, but there was a sadness to it. Nah, it's just me these days. Used to be different. But people move on. Life gets busy. The Marine nodded, but the teen felt a lump in his throat. He glanced at the photos on the wall, some black and white, others faded with time. One caught his eye, a young man in uniform, standing tall, strong, proud. It took him a second to realize it was the old man. You were a soldier? The teen asked before he could stop himself. The old man smiled faintly. A long time ago. Different world back then. The teen hesitated. Why didn't you say something earlier? The old man shrugged. Didn't think it mattered. Respect isn't about what you've done, it's about who you are. And if I have to list my accomplishments to earn kindness, then what's the point? The words hit harder than the teen expected. He thought about all the times he dismissed people who weren't part of his world, all the times he assumed they had nothing to do with him. And yet, here he was, standing in the home of someone who had probably lived through more than he ever would. The Marine clapped a hand on the old man's shoulder. You need anything else, sir? The old man shook his head. Nah, son, you've done more than enough. The Marine gave a respectful nod, then turned to the teen. Come on, let's go. The teen hesitated. Wait. Maybe I can help put these away. The Marine raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. The old man smiled. I'd appreciate that. So for the next few minutes, the teen did something he rarely did. He helped. He put away groceries, stacked cans in the pantry, and listened as the old man talked about his time in the service, about the people he used to know, the places he used to see. And as he listened, something shifted in him. When they finally left, the sun was starting to set, casting a warm glow over the street. The Marine glanced at the teen. So? What did you learn? The teen shrugged, but his voice was quieter than before. I don't know. Maybe I should pay more attention. The Marine smirked. Good start. They walked in silence for a while. Then, as they reached the intersection where it all began, the teen stopped. I was a jerk back there, he admitted. The Marine studied him. Yeah, you were. The teen exhaled. But I didn't mean to be. I know. The teen kicked at the sidewalk. So, now what? The Marine smiled. Now? You get to decide what kind of person you want to be next time. The teen thought about that as he watched the Marine walk away, his figure disappearing into the crowd. He stood there for a moment longer, letting everything sink in. Then, without a word, he pulled out his earbuds, stuffed them into his pocket, and turned back toward the old man's apartment. Because this time, he wasn't walking away.